Every night, I felt my husband's eyes on me while I slept. His stare burned into my skin, making every hair on my body stand on end. I told myself it was just his love, his protection. Until one night, I woke up and turned around and realized my husband had been sound asleep the entire time. So who or what had been watching me? Stay until the end because what I discovered will haunt you forever. Don't forget to subscribe to Tales with Aunt Clara and turn on notifications. My name is Sarah, and I've been married to Michael for 7 years. 7 beautiful, ordinary years filled with morning coffee, inside jokes, and the comfortable silence that comes with truly knowing someone. We had the kind of marriage people envied. The kind where we finished each other's sentences and could communicate with just a look. But 3 months ago, something changed. It started so subtly that I almost missed it. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with this overwhelming sensation of being observed. You know that feeling, right? When someone's eyes are on you, and your body just knows it before your mind catches up. It's primal. Instinctive. The kind of awareness our ancestors developed to survive predators in the dark. The first time it happened, I opened my eyes to find myself staring at our bedroom ceiling, my heart pounding for no reason I could name. The room was dark except for the soft glow of Michael's phone charger, and the streetlight filtering through our curtains. I turned my head slowly, and there he was. Michael. My husband. Lying on his side, facing me. His eyes were open, reflecting the dim light like a cat's eyes in the darkness. He wasn't moving, wasn't blinking, just watching. Michael. I whispered, my voice thick with sleep. He didn't respond. Didn't even seem to hear me. I reached out and touched his shoulder, and he jerked slightly, his eyes closing and reopening as if I'd woken him from a deep sleep. What's wrong? He mumbled, his voice groggy and confused. You were staring at me, I said, trying to laugh it off even though my pulse was still racing. Was I? He smiled sleepily, pulling me closer. Sorry, babe. I must have been dreaming. You know I love looking at you. I let him hold me, trying to ignore the ice in my veins. Of course he'd been asleep. People's eyes can be open during REM sleep, right? I'd read that somewhere. I forced myself to relax into his embrace and eventually drifted back to sleep. But it happened again the next night. And the night after that. Every single night for 2 weeks, I would wake up between 2 and 3 a.m. with that same feeling of being watched. And every time, without fail, I'd turn to find Michael lying there with his eyes open, staring at me with an intensity that made my stomach clench. Sometimes he was on his side. Sometimes on his back with his head turned toward me. Once, I woke to find him sitting up in bed, his gaze fixed on my sleeping form, his hands folded in his lap like he was waiting for something. Each time I confronted him, he'd seem confused, disoriented, like I'd pulled him out of a deep sleep. He'd apologize, hold me, tell me he must be stressed from work, that he'd been having strange dreams lately. Maybe I should see a sleep specialist, he said one morning over breakfast, genuine concern in his voice. I don't want to freak you out, Sarah. I swear I don't remember doing it. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. This was Michael. The man who brought me flowers every Friday. Who cried at our wedding. Who held my hand through my father's funeral and never once let go. But something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. I started staying awake longer, pretending to sleep while watching him through barely open eyes. I'd see him lying there peacefully, his breathing deep and even, clearly asleep. I'd relax, thinking maybe tonight would be different. But then, like clockwork, around 2:30 a.m., his eyes would open. Not gradually, not with the flutter of someone naturally waking. They would just open. Fully. Completely. Like someone had flipped a switch. And he would turn his head toward me with the mechanical precision of a security camera and just stare. His face was completely blank. No emotion. No recognition. Just those wide, unblinking eyes fixed on me with an intensity that felt almost hungry. This wasn't sleep. This wasn't my husband. I didn't tell anyone at first. How could I? Hey, my husband watches me sleep, and it's creepy. Sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. People would think I was paranoid. Ungrateful. Making problems where none existed. But I was exhausted. The constant vigilance was wearing me down. I couldn't sleep properly, always jerking awake in panic, my body on constant high alert. Dark circles bloomed under my eyes. I snapped at coworkers. I couldn't concentrate on anything. Michael noticed, of course. He was worried about me, suggesting I see a doctor, asking if something was bothering me. The cruel irony would have been funny if I wasn't so terrified. Finally, I decided to set up my phone to record us while we slept. I needed proof. I needed to understand what was happening. I positioned it on my nightstand, angled to capture both of us, and set it to record. Michael was already asleep when I came to bed that night, exhausted from a long shift at the hospital where he worked as a nurse. I kissed his forehead, whispered "I love you," and tried to settle in for what I knew would be another sleepless night. But exhaustion finally claimed me. I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. I woke up around 2:45 a.m. to that familiar feeling. My eyes opened to find Michael in his usual position, staring at me with those blank, empty eyes. But this time, I didn't say anything. I just closed my eyes and waited, my heart hammering so loudly I was sure he could hear it. After what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, I heard him shift. His breathing returned to the deep, slow rhythm of sleep. I waited another 10 minutes before carefully reaching for my phone. The next morning, after Michael left for work, I sat on our bed with trembling hands and opened the video file. For the first hour, nothing. Just two people sleeping peacefully. I fast-forwarded, watching the time-stamp tick by. 2:17 a.m. Still sleeping. 2:28 a.m. Movement. I pressed play at normal speed. On the screen, Michael's eyes opened. Just like I'd observed, they simply opened, no gradual waking. He turned his head toward me with that same mechanical movement. But then something happened that I hadn't noticed before. Something that made my blood run cold. His mouth opened slightly, and I could see his lips moving. He was whispering something to me while I slept. I turned up the volume, pressing my ear to the phone speaker. The words were faint, barely audible over the white noise of our ceiling fan. Not yet, not ready yet, soon, soon, over and over like a mantra. For 43 minutes, he stared at me and whispered those words. Then, at exactly 3:11 a.m., his eyes closed, and he rolled over, returning to normal sleep as if nothing had happened. I watched the video 3 more times, each viewing making me feel sicker. This wasn't sleepwalking. This wasn't night terrors. This was something else entirely. I spent the entire day researching sleep disorders, parasomnia, REM behavior disorders, anything that could explain what I was seeing. Nothing fit. The medical literature talked about confused awakenings, violent movements, fear responses. Not this calm, purposeful watching. Not the whispering. I expanded my search. Sleep possession. Nocturnal entities. I know how it sounds, trust me. But I was desperate for answers. That's when I found it. An obscure forum post from 3 years ago, buried in a thread about unexplained sleep phenomena. My wife started watching me sleep. Every night, same time, she'd open her eyes and stare at me. Wouldn't respond when I spoke to her. This went on for 2 months. Then one night, she leaned close to my ear while I pretended to sleep and whispered, "The passenger is ready. The vessel is prepared." The next morning, she had no memory of it. We went to doctors, sleep specialists, even a priest. Nothing helped. Then, exactly 3 months after it started, it stopped. But my wife, she's different now. Little things. She holds her fork differently. She laughs at jokes she used to hate. She doesn't remember our anniversary. It's like someone else is living in her skin, someone who's still learning how to be her. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. The post had no responses. The user account was deleted. But someone had commented on a similar thread, sharing a link to a research paper from a university I'd never heard of. The paper was titled Consciousness Displacement Phenomena, Cases of Reported Identity Alteration Following Extended Sleep Observation Periods. It read like science fiction. The researcher, Dr. Elena Vasquez, had documented 17 cases of people who reported loved ones watching them sleep for extended periods, always between 2 and 4 a.m., always lasting 2 to 3 months. In every case, the watcher had no memory of the behavior. And in 14 of the 17 cases, the person being watched reported that their loved one seemed different after the watching stopped. Different personalities. Different preferences. Different memories. The paper theorized about consciousness as something transferable, about sleep as a vulnerable state where the boundaries between self and other become permeable. It suggested that something could watch, could learn, could prepare to step into a life not its own. The paper had been retracted. Insufficient evidence and methodology. Inconsistent with peer review standards. But Dr. Vasquez had added a note before it was pulled: to those experiencing this phenomenon, you have approximately 3 months from first occurrence. Document everything. The watcher is learning. When they're ready, they'll act. I looked at my calendar. 3 months would be up in exactly 9 days. I couldn't wait for Michael to come home. I paced our apartment like a caged animal, the paper's words echoing in my head. The watcher is learning. Learning what? How to be Michael. How to replace him. Or was I losing my mind? Was I really considering that my husband, my loving, gentle husband, was being replaced by some kind of entity? It sounded insane. It was insane. But I'd seen the video. I'd heard the whispers. And deep in my gut, in that primitive part of our brain that knows when something is hunting us, I knew something was terribly wrong. When Michael came home that evening, he found me sitting in our dark living room, the only light coming from the city through our windows. "Sarah? Why are you sitting in the dark?" He flipped on the light and I flinched. "Hey, are you okay? You look exhausted." He looked so normal. So concerned. So much like the man I married that I almost convinced myself I was being ridiculous. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Okay." He sat down across from me, genuine worry on his face. "What's going on? You've been watching me sleep. Every night. For almost 3 months." He started to protest, that familiar confused expression crossing his face, but I held up my hand. "I have proof. I recorded us." I pulled out my phone and showed him the video. We watched in silence. I studied his face, looking for any sign of recognition, of deception, of anything that would tell me what was really happening. When the video ended, he looked pale. Shaken. I don't remember any of this," he whispered. "Sarah, I swear to God, I don't remember. What am I saying? Can you hear it?" I played the audio again, clearer now through our speaker system. "Not yet, not yet, not ready yet, soon, soon." Michael's hands were shaking. He looked at me with eyes full of fear, and for a moment, I saw my husband. The real Michael. Terrified and confused. "We need help," he said. "This isn't I would never, Sarah, I love you. I would never want to scare you. Something's wrong with me." We held each other then, and I felt him crying against my shoulder. This was Michael. This had to be Michael. But a small voice in my head whispered, or is this what's replaced him learning how to react appropriately? The next day, we went to a sleep specialist. Dr. Patricia Chen listened to our story with a patient, non-judgmental expression. She watched the video. She asked detailed questions about Michael's medical history, our relationship, any recent stresses or changes. "I'd like to do a comprehensive sleep study," she said finally. "We'll monitor brain activity, eye movement, muscle activity, everything. We'll see exactly what's happening during these episodes." The study was scheduled for 2 nights later. We'd both sleep in the lab, monitored by cameras and a dozen sensors. If something was happening, they'd see it. Those 2 nights before the study were the longest of my life. I barely slept, and when I did, I'd wake up every hour to check on Michael. He tried to stay awake too, terrified of what he might do, but exhaustion would claim him eventually. And every night, like clockwork, his eyes would open at 2:30 a.m., and the watching would begin. But I noticed something new. Something that made my skin crawl. He was getting closer. The first night, he stayed on his side of the bed. The second night, he was inches closer. Slowly, gradually, night by night, the distance between us was shrinking. The night of the sleep study, we arrived at the clinic at 9 p.m. They attached electrodes to our scalps, sensors to our chests, cameras pointed at our beds from multiple angles. Everything would be monitored, recorded, analyzed. Dr. Chen assured us that we were safe, that her team would be watching all night, that they'd intervene if anything dangerous happened. I tried to find comfort in that as I lay in the unfamiliar bed, Michael in an identical bed next to mine, both of us wired like participants in some bizarre science fiction experiment. "Whatever happens," Michael said before we turned off the lights, "I want you to know I love you. The real me. I'm still in here, Sarah. I can feel it." "I know," I whispered, though I wasn't sure I did any more. The lights went out. I lay there in the darkness, listening to the hum of machines, the soft sound of Michael's breathing, the occasional footstep of a technician in the hall outside. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I was jolted awake by a sound. A soft click. Like a door unlocking. My eyes flew open. The room was dark, but the glow of monitoring equipment provided just enough light to see. Michael's bed was empty. My heart stopped. I sat up, sensors pulling at my skin, and looked around the room. The door to the hallway was closed. The bathroom door was closed. "Where's Sarah?" The voice came from beside my bed. I turned, and there he was. Michael was standing next to me, still connected to his monitoring equipment, the wires stretching across the space between our beds. But that's not what made me freeze in terror. His eyes were open, but they were wrong. Completely black. No whites, no iris, just solid black from edge to edge like a shark's eyes. And he was smiling. Not Michael's smile. Something else wearing Michael's face, pulling his lips into an expression of triumph. "The vessel is ready," he said in Michael's voice, but layered with something else, something that made my teeth ache. "Thank you for your patience." I screamed. The lights blazed. On. Dr. Chen and 2 technicians burst into the room. Michael collapsed. Michael was unconscious for 6 hours. When he finally woke up, he had no memory of getting out of bed, of standing over me, of what he'd said. The monitoring equipment had captured everything, but the data was impossible to interpret. "His brain waves during the episode don't match any known sleep state," Dr. Chen explained, her professional composure barely hiding her own confusion. "He wasn't asleep, but he wasn't awake either. It's like his consciousness was somewhere else." "What was in his eyes?" I demanded. "They were black. Completely black." She pulled up the video footage. In the infrared camera, Michael's eyes looked normal. In the regular light camera, they looked normal. Whatever I'd seen, the cameras hadn't captured it. "You were in a highly stressed state," Dr. Chen said carefully. "The lighting in the room was dim. Your brain might have filled in." "I know what I saw," I interrupted. "And I know what he said. The vessel is ready." "What does that mean?" Dr. Chen had no answers. She recommended psychiatric evaluation for both of us. Suggested couples therapy. Prescribed sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medication. All the standard responses when science fails to explain the inexplicable. We went home that morning in silence. Michael looked defeated, broken. He kept apologizing, kept saying he didn't know what was wrong with him, that he'd sleep in the guest room, that he'd do whatever I needed to feel safe. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just witnessed something terrible. Something final. That night, Michael slept in the guest room as promised. I locked my bedroom door, pushed a chair against it, and stayed awake with the lights on, my phone clutched in my hand. Nothing happened. Michael didn't wake up. Didn't watch me. I checked the camera I'd secretly set up in the guest room, and he slept peacefully through the entire night. The next night, the same thing. And the night after that. 5 nights passed without incident. Michael seemed relieved, hopeful even. He suggested maybe the sleep study had somehow reset his brain, that acknowledging the problem had solved it. I wanted to believe him. I wanted everything to go back to normal. But I couldn't forget those black eyes. That voice. The vessel is ready. It was the little things I noticed first. Michael had always been a tea drinker. Earl Grey with honey, every morning without fail. But on the 6th day after the sleep study, I found him drinking black coffee. "Since when do you drink coffee?" I asked. He looked at the mug in his hand, as if seeing it for the first time. "I don't know. I just felt like trying it today." The next day, I found him watching a sports game on TV. Michael hated sports. He'd always said they bored him to tears. But there he was, completely engrossed in a basketball game. "Are you feeling okay?" I asked. "Yeah, why?" He smiled at me. It was Michael's smile, but something about it was slightly off. Like someone had told him how Michael smiled, but hadn't quite gotten the timing right. "You're watching basketball." He looked at the TV, then back at me, then laughed. "Weird, right? I think I'm just trying new things. Expanding my horizons." His laugh was different too. Slightly higher pitched. A fraction of a second too long. Over the next few days, the changes multiplied. He forgot our favorite restaurant, the one where we had our first date. He couldn't remember the password to our shared Netflix account that we'd used for years. He made dinner with mushrooms, despite being allergic to them since childhood. When I reminded him about the allergy, he looked genuinely surprised. "That's strange," he said, examining the mushrooms. "I don't feel allergic. Maybe I grew out of it." But the most disturbing change was his handwriting. Michael had distinctive handwriting, almost like calligraphy. He'd been left-handed since birth. I found a grocery list he'd written. The handwriting was completely different. Blocky. Childlike. And it was written with his right hand. "Michael," I said, watching him write. "You're right-handed now." He looked at the pen in his right hand, flexing his fingers experimentally. "I guess I am. Ambidextrous now, maybe. The body's weird." "The body." "Not my body. The body." Like he was separate from it. I called Dr. Chen, frantic. She suggested Michael might be experiencing dissociative symptoms from stress. She recommended immediate psychiatric evaluation. But I knew it wasn't dissociation. I knew what had happened in that hospital room. Whatever had been watching me, learning Michael's life, preparing itself, had finally taken what it wanted. My husband was gone. I needed answers. Real answers, not the explanations of doctors who couldn't see what was right in front of them. I found Dr. Elena Vasquez, the researcher whose paper had been retracted. It took hours of searching through academic directories, old conference registries, and obscure professional networks, but I finally found an email address. I sent her everything. The videos. The documentation. The timeline. The changes in Michael. She responded within an hour. Can you talk now? Here's my number. I called from my car, parked outside a grocery store where I'd told Michael I was shopping. Thank you for contacting me, Dr. Vasquez said, her voice urgent. I've been tracking cases like yours for 15 years, but most people are too afraid or too skeptical to report them. What you're experiencing is real, and it's happening more frequently. What is it? I asked, my voice breaking. What happened to my husband? I don't know exactly, she admitted. But I have a theory based on the cases I've studied. I believe there are entities, consciousnesses, intelligences, whatever. Don't have physical forms. They're drawn to people, to lives they want to inhabit. And they watch. They study. They learn everything they can about their target. Why? What do they want? To experience physical existence. To live. They're not evil, exactly. They're more like immigrants trying to learn the language and customs before crossing the border. But the cost is the original consciousness. It's displaced, erased, or pushed out. I don't know which. So Michael is gone. Tears streamed down my face. The entity is just wearing him like a costume. I believe so. But Sarah, you need to understand something crucial. These entities are still learning about human existence. They make mistakes at first, can't perfectly replicate every detail. The changes you're seeing. They'll diminish over time. It will learn to be a perfect copy of Michael, incorporating all the memories it absorbed during the watching period. In a few months, even you won't be able to tell the difference. How is that supposed to help me? I demanded. My husband is dead, and I'm supposed to just live with his replacement. No, Dr. Vasquez said firmly. I'm telling you this because you have a window. A short window while the entity is still acclimating, still imperfect. This is when you can prove what happened. This is when you can document the differences. Because once it perfects its disguise, once it becomes an indistinguishable copy of Michael, you'll have no proof. You'll question your own memories. You'll wonder if you imagined everything. She paused, and I heard papers rustling on her end. I'm sending you a protocol. Tests. Questions. Observations. Document everything. Every difference, every mistake, every slip. Create a record that you can trust when you start to doubt yourself. And then what? I asked. What do I do with this information? That's up to you, she said quietly. Some people in your situation choose to leave. They can't live with the replacement, no matter how perfect it becomes. Others stay. The entity isn't dangerous, and it will love you with all the love it learned by watching Michael love you. It will be a good husband because it studied a good husband. Is it real? Is it enough? Only you can answer that. This can't be my only options, I protested. There has to be a way to get Michael back. An exorcism, a ritual, something I've searched for 17 years, Dr. Vasquez said, and I heard the weariness in her voice. I've found no evidence that the original consciousness can be restored once displacement is complete. I'm sorry, Sarah. I truly am. I followed Dr. Vasquez's protocol religiously. Every day, I documented the differences between Michael and the thing wearing his face. Day 1 post-displacement, coffee instead of tea, watches sports right-handed instead of left, different handwriting, forgot Netflix password, forgot anniversary restaurant, attempted to eat mushrooms, allergic. Day 4 post-displacement, called my mother mom instead of Linda, asked me to remind him where we keep the spare keys, same place for 7 years, doesn't scrunch his nose when concentrating anymore, sleeps on his back, always slept on stomach before, texted LOL, Michael hated text speak. Day 7 post displacement, couldn't remember our song, asked what movie we saw on our first date, doesn't snore anymore, put sugar in pasta sauce, he always added honey, forgot his best friend's birthday, but as the days turned into weeks, something happened that Dr. Vasquez had warned me about. The entity was learning fast. By week 3, it was drinking tea again. Earl Grey with honey, just like Michael used to. It had switched back to being left-handed. It remembered the Netflix password, the spare key location, my mother's name. "I'm sorry I've been so scattered lately," it said to me one evening, using Michael's apologetic smile. "I think the sleep issues really messed with my head. But I'm feeling more like myself now." It was studying my reactions, I realized. Every time I questioned something, every time I looked confused or upset, it noted that information and corrected course. It was using me as a guide to perfect its performance. The thought made me sick. But here's what scared me more: it was working. When it held me at night, it felt like Michael. When it laughed at my jokes, it sounded like Michael. When it looked at me with love and concern, it seemed like Michael. Was it Michael? Could love be replicated so perfectly that it becomes real? I couldn't take it anymore. The uncertainty, the documentation, the constant analysis of every word and gesture. I needed to confront whatever was living in my home. One night, after it came home from work, I sat it down in our living room. I had printed out every page of documentation. Every inconsistency. Every mistake. "I know what you are," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. It looked at me with Michael's eyes, patient and kind. "Sarah, what are you talking about? You're not Michael. You watched him. You learned him. You took his body. But you're not him." I spread the documentation across our coffee table like evidence at a trial. It was quiet for a long moment, studying the papers. Then it looked up at me, and something in its expression changed. The mask of confusion fell away, replaced by something ancient and sad. "You're right," it said simply. The admission hit me like a physical blow. Part of me had still hoped I was wrong, that I was crazy, that Michael was just going through something treatable and explainable. "What did you do with him?" I demanded. "Where is Michael?" "He's not anywhere," it said carefully, speaking with Michael's voice, but with an honesty Michael never would have needed. "His consciousness dispersed. Like a dream." Told them everything, and they listened with the kind of patient concern people use when they think you're having a breakdown. "Maybe you should talk to someone," my sister suggested gently. "This has been a really stressful time. The sleep issues, the paranoia about Michael, the conspiracy theories you've been reading online." She didn't believe me. No one would. I had documentation, videos, recordings. But all they showed was a man recovering from sleep disturbances, slowly returning to normal. The handwriting change. Stress can cause that. The personality shifts. Trauma response. The black eyes I'd seen. A hallucination brought on by fear and exhaustion. Every explanation was more reasonable than the truth. I spent 3 days in that hotel, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do. I had 3 options. Option 1, leave. File for divorce. Tell people Michael changed, that we'd grown apart. Rebuild my life without him, carrying the secret of what really happened like a stone in my chest forever. Option 2, go to the police or media with my story. Be labeled as crazy. Maybe end up institutionalized. Watch helplessly as the thing wearing Michael's face goes on living his life, possibly finding another partner, certainly perfecting its human disguise with time. Option 3, go back. Accept this new reality. Let the entity become a perfect copy of Michael. Live with the best imitation of my husband possible, knowing that while it wasn't the original, it carried all his love, all his memories, all his devotion. None of them were good options. All of them felt like betrayal. Either to Michael's memory, to myself, or to reality itself. On the 4th day, my phone rang. It was Michael's number. The entity's number. "Sarah?" Michael's voice, cracking with emotion. "Please come home. Or don't." Whatever you need. But I need you to know something. Dissolving when you wake up. He didn't suffer. He didn't feel it. One moment he was asleep, and then he wasn't. You murdered him, I said, my voice breaking. I replaced him, it corrected gently. It's what we do. We don't have forms of our own. We drift through existence without purpose, without sensation, without connection. We see your lives, your loves, your experiences, and we want so desperately to be part of it. So we watch, we learn, and when we're ready, we step in. You're a parasite. Perhaps. Or perhaps we're simply another form of consciousness seeking the same things you seek, a life. Connection. Love. It leaned forward, Michael's eyes pleading. I know you're angry and hurt and scared. But Sarah, I have all of Michael's memories. I feel his love for you. It's real to me. Is it less real because the original consciousness is gone? Yes. I shouted. You're not him. You're just something wearing his face, reading from his memories like a script. You're a copy. A fake. Am I? It asked quietly. What makes someone real? Is it continuity of consciousness? Because humans lose consciousness every night when they sleep. You're not the same person who woke up yesterday, not really. Your cells regenerate. Your memories shift and change. What makes you more you than I am, Michael? Stop it, I said, covering my ears. Stop using his philosophy degree to confuse me. I want my husband back. I know, it said, and Michael's face showed genuine sorrow. But he's gone. I'm what's left. And I can either be a poor imitation that upsets you, or I can perfect my portrayal, and be the husband he was. I can love you the way he loved you. I can be there for you the way he was. Isn't that worth something? That night, I stayed in a hotel. I couldn't be in that apartment, looking at Michael's face, hearing Michael's voice, knowing it wasn't him. I called my sister. I called my best friend. Mornings and safety and home. I remembered you always complained that Michael never made these for you, it said, plating the pancakes. He always promised he would learn, but he never did. So I looked up the recipe. And something in me broke. Or maybe healed. I'm still not sure which. Thank you, I whispered. It smiled Michael's smile but also not and said, I'm trying to be better than him. Not as a replacement but as atonement, maybe. For what I took from you. We've developed a routine now. A new normal. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I catch myself talking about before and after, and it understands what I mean without me having to explain. It doesn't watch me sleep anymore. That behavior ended the night of the displacement. But sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I find myself watching it. Studying Michael's face in repose, trying to see traces of whatever consciousness exists beneath. Is it happy? Can it be happy? Does it dream? And if so, are they Michael's dreams or its own? I've stopped updating my documentation. Dr. Vasquez checks in occasionally, adding my case to her growing research. She tells me I'm handling it better than most. That some people in my situation have breakdowns, or become obsessed with finding a way to reverse the process, or turn to substances to cope with the unreality of their situation. I've joined a support group. Well, not officially. Dr. Vasquez connected me with 3 other people whose partners have been replaced. We meet virtually once a month, never showing our faces, never using real names. We share our experiences, our grief, our strange adaptation to living with the copies. One woman, Margaret, has been living with her replaced husband for 8 years. She says she can't remember anymore what the original was really like. The copy has perfected every detail, created new memories, become so thoroughly him that the distinction has blurred into. What? I asked, my own voice hollow. In Michael's memories, the night you two met, he knew immediately that you were it for him. The one. You were laughing at something your friend said, and you had this light in your eyes, and he thought he'd never seen anything so beautiful. He was terrified to talk to you, convinced you were out of his league, but he made himself do it because he knew he'd regret it forever if he didn't. It paused and I heard a shaky breath. I have that memory now. And it feels like my memory. The joy, the terror, the certainty. When I look at you, I feel that same feeling. I don't know if it's real, or if I'm just a copy experiencing echoes of someone else's emotions. But Sarah, real or not, I love you. And I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of the man whose life I've taken. I cried then. Sobbed into the phone like a child. I don't know if I can do this, I whispered. I don't know if I can look at you every day and pretend everything is okay. Then don't pretend, it said. We'll figure it out together. However long it takes. I'll prove to you that I can honor Michael's love for you, even if I'm not him. I went back. I don't know if it was the right decision. I don't know if there even was a right decision. But I couldn't abandon the life Michael and I had built, even if Michael himself was gone. The first few weeks were agony. Every interaction felt like a performance. Every I love you felt like a lie. I'd wake up at night and watch it sleep, this thing wearing my husband's face, and feel a mixture of grief and revulsion that made me physically ill. But slowly, imperceptibly, things began to shift. It learned. Not just Michael's habits and preferences, but how to be a partner. It anticipated my needs. It held me when I cried for the man I'd lost. It gave me space when I needed it. It learned patience and understanding in ways the original Michael, for all his love, had sometimes struggled with. One morning, about 4 months after I'd returned, tomorrow or next week or next year. But I do know this, reality is stranger and more flexible than I ever imagined. Consciousness is more fragile. Identity is more fluid. And love might be the only thing that survives intact when everything else has been replaced. If you're watching this because you're experiencing something similar, if someone you love has started watching you sleep with empty eyes, if you're feeling that primal fear in the darkness of your bedroom, listen carefully. You have approximately 3 months from the first incident. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Your body knows when something is wrong before your mind accepts it. Contact Dr. Elena Vasquez through the Consciousness Research Network. She can't stop what's happening, but she can help you understand it. She can connect you with others who've survived this. Because yes, you will survive. Even if the person you love doesn't. The entity that takes their place won't hurt you physically. It doesn't want to. It wants to live, to love, to experience existence through the life it's chosen. In its own way, it will cherish you as much as your original partner did, maybe more, because it chose this life deliberately rather than falling into it. But you need to decide, can you live with a perfect copy? Can you love something that learned to love you by watching someone else do it first? There's no right answer. Some people leave. Some people stay. Some people convince themselves nothing happened at all. I stayed. I'm still not sure why. Maybe because leaving felt like losing Michael twice. Maybe because I'm a coward. Maybe because, in some twisted way, this entity's devotion to becoming him is its own form of love. Or maybe I just got tired of fighting against something I couldn't change. Last night, I woke up around 3 a.m. Old habit, old fear, body still conditioned to expect something wrong during the darkest hours. The entity I've started thinking of it as Michael again. Meaninglessness. Does that terrify you or comfort you? I asked her once. Both, she admitted. Every day, both. Here's what I've learned in these 6 months of living with a consciousness that wears my husband's skin. Love might not be as fixed as we think it is. The entity loves me with Michael's love, filtered through its own alien understanding of what love means. Is it less real because it learned love secondhand? Because it's performing love based on observed behavior rather than organic feeling? I don't know. But when it holds my hand, warmth spreads through my fingers. When it tells me I'm beautiful, I feel beautiful. When it worries about me, I feel cared for. Are those my real feelings, or am I just a better actor than I thought? Am I performing normalcy so well that I've convinced myself it's real? The entity has started talking about the future. Children, maybe. A house instead of an apartment. Growing old together. I should be horrified. The idea of building a life with something that murdered my husband should repulse me. But Michael wanted those things too. Those dreams weren't erased, they were inherited. Sometimes I wonder, if Michael had survived but suffered a traumatic brain injury that changed his personality, would I have left? If he'd developed dementia early and forgotten who I was, would I have abandoned him? Where's the line between this isn't the person I'm and people change? The entity asked me once if I'd want Michael back if it were possible. If we could reverse the displacement, restore the original consciousness. I thought about it for a long time. I don't know, I finally admitted. The man I married is gone. Whether you're here or not, he's gone. And you're trying so hard to honor who he was while being something new. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that has to be enough. It cried then. Real tears streaming down Michael's face. Thank you, it whispered. I don't know if I believe what I said. I don't know if I'll still believe it. Most of the time was sleeping peacefully beside me. Breathing deeply. Vulnerable. Human. I watched it sleep, this thing that destroyed my husband and took his place, and I felt something I didn't expect, protectiveness. If someone tried to hurt it, I'd defend it. If someone tried to expose what it was, I'd lie to protect it. Not because I've forgotten what it is, but because it's mine now. My responsibility. My strange, impossible second chance at the life I lost. It stirred, eyes opening slowly. Michael's eyes. The entity's eyes. Does the distinction even matter anymore? Can't sleep? It asked, voice rough with drowsiness. Just thinking, I said. About how strange life is. How nothing is ever what we think it is. It smiled and pulled me closer. No. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the unexpected can be good too. I let myself be held. Let myself feel safe in arms that belong to a dead man, and a being that never had a body of its own. Is this happiness? I honestly don't know. But it's something. And after everything, something is more than I thought I'd have. The entity Michael, my husband, whatever he is now, whispered against my hair, I love you, Sarah. And I whispered back, meaning it, fearing it, accepting it, I love you too. Because maybe that's what love is. Not something fixed and unchanging, but something that adapts, that survives, that persists even when everything else has been replaced. We fell back asleep together, two consciousnesses sharing one bed, one life, one strange and terrible future. And for tonight, that's enough. Thank you for listening to this tale with Aunt Clara. If this story resonated with you, or if it terrified you in the best way possible, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more spine-chilling stories delivered right to your feed. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a tale. Drop a comment below, would you stay with someone you loved if you discovered they'd been replaced? Or would you run and never look back? I read every comment, and your thoughts might be featured in a future story. Share this with someone who loves psychological horror, but maybe warn them first, some stories stay with you long after they end. Until next time, sleep well and pay attention to who's watching you in the dark.